Hi guys, welcome to a new video on my channel. So just quickly want to apologise for not uploading for quite a few days. I've not been feeling that motivated to get on with it, to be honest, but I'm back now and I'm feeling a lot better, so here we go. Um, Also, I did record this video yesterday, but like I had to scrap the recording because I don't know, I didn't feel like I explained it very clearly and concisely, and I couldn't concentrate that well, so I'm going to attempt to and then I got interrupted anyway. So I'm going to attempt it again now. So yeah, today we're on about the character and the personality traits of the Libra zodiac sign. So Libra then. Now Libra is basically the first sign which is in a polarity, if you like. It's in an opposition to another sign that came before it. So you have the first six signs, and then the final six signs, the other half of the 360-degree circle of the zodiac, are in a polarity or a square to the sign that came before it. So for Libra, they're the first sign to do that because they are opposite to Aries on the zodiac wheel. And basically, opposites can attract, or they can do the opposite of attract, or they can attract and then make you pull away after a while because they start to behave in a way which is too different to yours, and then you struggle to be friends with them, and then you pull away from them. For me, that last option is the one that happens the most frequently, and I think that's the same for most people. But anyway, I'll get into the polarity between Aries and Libra a little bit more in a different video, I think, because I'm going to do like separate videos for each polarity or square to explain like the fundamental, foundation of what their opposite personalities are based on, if you like. So just quickly touching on it for this video, for Aries and Libra, their polarity or their opposition is basically about self and personal recognition and, all about me and ego and all of those sort of things of that nature, which is Aries, versus others, which is Libra. Libra's like the loss of ego, the loss of pride. They're sort of providers for other people. They're fair-minded, diplomatic. They're more about other people or the groups that they're surrounding themselves with. But because Libra rules the seventh house in astrology, which is about relationships of all kinds, it can also be taken romantically. So it's like Libra's like the other in the relationship, whereas the Aries would be the self in the relationship. So, say an Aries and a Libra did get together romantically, the Aries would be about the self polarity, the self side, and about themselves, and the Libra would be about the other side or the self-sacrificing sort of spirit of the polarity. But I will do separate videos with each like sign, polarity, or square to explain the fundamental sort of, what do you call it? The fundamental sort of base of what their opposition is, or how they're opposite to each other, like the area of life where they're the most opposite sort of thing. So I'll explain in terms of character traits and personality. I'll explain them separately in different videos, one for each like opposition. So for this video, Libra. So Libra is the cardinal mode for the air element. So they are basically, Libra can be considered similar to Gemini, I would say. Of course, they are the same element. Libra's a bit slower moving, I would say, than the Gemini, though. Like the Gemini is a bit more fly in every direction. A real world example I could say for Libra is, as the background of this video also like indicates as well, is that I would say Libra, their real life example would be like a hurricane, versus the Gemini, their real life example I said was more of a tornado, with the wind is going in all directions and it's picking things up off the ground and causing destruction in that sense, and the wind is going in 100,000 different directions, pretty much, quite literally. Uh, Libra is cardinal air, so it's not like the air is so disorderly. It's kind of more organized in its like direction in life. It's a bit more sort of that it's coordinating in one direction. Therefore, hurricane is a bit more what I would say that the Libra would represent as a real world example. The air and the wind, the fast gusts of wind that come with a hurricane, that is kind of Libra's air in a sense. So Libra, as I said with all the cardinal signs, they're the ones who are initiating. They're giving birth to this element that they're paired with correspondingly. So Libra is not always having this air energy within them being present. They have it only when they're actively producing and making it because they're the cardinal mode. So another difference with Gemini and then Aquarius, the other air sign, is that the Gemini and the Aquarius will have this air constantly present. Libra doesn't. Libra has it only when they're making it themselves because they are the cardinal mode. Um, Technically, they don't, but they should technically also come first because they're the one coordinating and making this element in the first place. And water and fire do follow that order in the zodiac, where the cardinal does come first, which is what you would expect. But weirdly, earth and air don't for some reason. But whatever. I just thought I'd think that I just thought I'd express that. I do think that's kind of strange. So basically, Libra. So they are opposite to Aries. So the sun is fallen in their sign. So they do have somewhat of a lack of ego and a lack of self confidence. However, you wouldn't necessarily know this from the outside because they do hide it pretty well. Because they're similar to Gemini. They take on the role of the social butterfly quite often. They do not speak as much as the Geminis do, but they do have this sort of social butterfly image that they present to people and present to the world. And they do that, I think, in a sense to hide the fact that they actually don't have much self confidence. They definitely are less confident in themselves and more insecure in themselves than the Gemini, definitely, and also the Aquarius as well. Aquarius also has a debilitated sun, but not a completely fallen sun like Libra does. So Libra definitely is the air sign which is the most insecure. They're just not necessarily going to show you that on the outside. They're going to keep that quite like under wraps, if you like, quite subtle about that. That paired with the fact that they are just ruled by Venus, the planet of love, beauty, harmony, all of that, they do care a lot and spend a lot of time on their personal appearance. And I think one of the reasons for that, other than the fact that they are just ruled by Venus, is that they actually are secretly a little bit insecure, most of them, and they do want to look as good as they possibly can so that they can make themselves feel better about themselves on an emotional level, if you like. They start by making themselves look good physically, and then it helps them feel good mentally and emotionally, like internally, if you kind of catch my drift here. So that's kind of another reason, but also just that they're ruled by Venus. They do care a lot about aesthetics and beauty and that sort of thing. So they do spend a lot of time in their own image, definitely for that reason too. Um, Libra then, so basically the whole ethos, the whole like philosophy of life, if you like, of the typical Libra sun person would be this fair philosophy. They are symbolized by the scales of justice, and interestingly, they're the only zodiac sign that is represented by an inanimate object. Like all the other signs, pretty much are living animals that are their sign representatives. But Libra isn't. Libra's just the scales of justice. So I thought that's interesting. They're an inanimate object, and they're the only sign that is represented in that way in astrology. So that's kind of interesting. But the scales aren't just any scales; they're the scales of justice. So, like, sort of judge and jury, criminal justice system, anything like that is obviously, we know that they fail quite often, but they do attempt to be fair in, obviously what they do. They attempt to bring justice to people who deserve to be arrested or whatever. Libra's like that in every area of their lives in a certain sense. They do like justice, they do like fairness. Also, because of Venus as well, I think Libra is very civilized. They are very chill as well. Like, they are some of the most laid back, easygoing people. They're very, very nice to be around because they are self sacrificing. They care a lot about how you feel, even over themselves sometimes. And they are very humanitarian. They're very kind-hearted and warm, especially for an air sign. And because they're so chilled, they're pretty laid back and they're like quite comforting to hang out with because they make you feel more chilled out and relaxed too because they're always so chilled out and relaxed. So that's a good thing. On the negative side of that, though, they can be a bit too chilled and laid back and they don't really care. And sometimes, obviously, life situations are serious and you kind of want them to care. And if they don't in those situations, that is how I could see there being a problem with them being so chilled and laid back as a sign. But yeah, however, Libra does have a very serious side to them actually, and they're definitely more like this than the other signs in the air element category. And it's because the planet Saturn basically is not a very nice planet. It represents blockages, restrictions, bad luck, the opposite of Jupiter, which is good luck and opportunities. So yeah, Saturn's not a very nice planet, and Saturn is actually the planet that is exalted, in other words, strengthened in the sign of Libra. So because Libra is actually strengthening this very not nice planet, it's the planet of karma, the planet of bad luck, all these limitations, physical illness, depression, all these things. Libra is actually the sign responsible for strengthening that planet's energy. So and the opposite Aries actually is the sign where that planet falls, where Saturn falls. But Libra exalts it and strengthens it. So because of that, Libra does have this very serious side, and I think they manifest it in typical seventh house affairs because they are the ruler of the seventh house in astrology, which is relationships of all kinds, especially romantically. But it could also be like business relationships, acquaintances, friends in that sense. Um, so they manifest their seriousness, I'd say, in that sense. They are very sort of serious about give and take. So they're fair minded and self sacrificing, but at the same time, they also are very aware of themselves and how much they're given to a relationship. And they're also very aware of if that's reciprocated fairly back to them from the other side of things. So they're self sacrificing and tolerant to the extreme, but at the same time, they do have this internal struggle, if you like, because they are also very aware of how much they provide for the other person and whether they're getting that fair treatment back. So, say that they're doing everything for this person to keep the relationship going, especially romantically, because it's the easiest like example to give when explaining this. Say that they're doing everything to keep the romance alive, and it's kind of not really working. And they're doing like 100% effort, and then the other side's doing only 50% effort, even though they're self-sacrificing and they have no ego and they don't really mind doing that. At the same time, they also do. They are also very aware that they're giving more than they're getting, and they do not like that because they do have the serious side, and it's fueled by justice, fairness, give and take dynamics. They are very aware of those things. Another big thing about Libra is that because they're opposite to Aries, Aries sort of likes conflicts, or like fights, which obviously it causes like problems, but at the same time, it's also kind of a good thing in a sense because sometimes you need a direct approach to sort out any problems. Sometimes, like a healthy argument is necessary in order to sort out problems and issues before they become bigger and snowball. Libra, because they're opposite, they absolutely hate conflict. Now, Libra also is a sign with a distinct lack of physical energy. They can be quite lazy as well, despite them being an air element sign. And this is mainly because, again, like Taurus, they're dignifying Venus, which means that they are detrimenting, in other words, weakening Mars. So, similar to Taurus, they have Mars in a weakened position, so they don't have much energy. They don't have much anger, but they also don't have much fighting spirit, and they absolutely hate conflict and arguments and discord of all sorts like that. So they will actively avoid doing that, and they'll mediate conflicts that don't even concern them as well. Like sometimes, say an argument breaks out among their friend groups when they're there as well, but they're not involved in it, they're going to be the first one to jump up and mediate the conflict to stop it being a big argument or fight or whatever. They will step in and actively mediate the conflict to stop it getting heated. But when it comes to their own life, I could see a problem for Libras is that they don't argue. So it's like sometimes they will, and the more evolved Libras do know when, enough is enough and when to stand their ground. But they are not very assertive as a sign. They are quite passive in a certain sense. And because of that, they could like not say anything, even when they are very self aware and logical and they know that they need to say something, they're being taken advantage of. Their politeness is being taken advantage of, they're being walked all over by the other side, by the other person. And they know all this, but they still don't raise the issue and resolve it because they don't want to argue. So it's kind of like the partner might not even know that they're feeling used or unappreciated because they're not going to say it because they don't want to cause an argument. So if you kind of see what I mean, that could be an area of life where Libra has some problems, is that they do need to learn to assert themselves more. It's very admirable that they are so humanitarian and peaceful and calm and they don't want to cause any arguments or discord. I understand that because as a Pisces, I also actively hate and avoid conflicts, as well as my rising Cancer, because Cancer and Pisces are also signs that are very peaceful and they don't like conflict either. So I understand why Libra does that, but at the same time, sometimes you need to assert yourself to get your point across or to make a situation better for you or the other person or whatever. So that is a problem. They are a bit not assertive enough, if you like. They're a bit too passive. But of course, anger and aggression still has to go somewhere. So in that case, they probably won't actively cause any problems because they don't want to do arguments, so they won't like say what's wrong, but they'll still feel it because they're still angry, and of course anger can't just be repressed forever. And because of that, and the fact Mars is weakened in their sign, they kind of resort to passive aggressive behavior. Cancer and even Pisces, they can do that too, but Libra is very much passive aggressive. Libra and Cancer, I'd say, are the signs that are most likely to be very passive aggressive. Actually, Virgo can be too sometimes, actually. But Libra is very passive aggressive, and Cancer, they are very much like, they're not actively aggressive, they're passive. And of course, in that way, things can't really be resolved because the other person might not even know like what they've done wrong or how to make up for it or apologize for it or even they've done anything wrong at all. So that's that. Anyways, getting on to the placements in your personal birth chart, you can have Libra in. So, of course, if your sun is Libra, not going to lie to you guys, that's not a very good placement because the sun is fallen in Libra. The ego is fallen. So, really, the sun is not happy in Libra. It's in its. Libra is the worst place where the sun could possibly be. But despite that, of course, Libra, if your sun is there, it's just going to adopt all of these active character traits of the Libra. You're going to express them openly. You're going to assert yourself with these character traits because they fuel your ego. Because obviously, you still have an ego and it's tied in with all these character traits of the Libra sign. So you're going to actively be taking pride in the fact you're a Libra and you're going to be showing all these traits in that sense. Now, a Libra moon, this is interesting because Libra is the masculine side of Venus versus Taurus, which is the more feminine side of Venus. So Venus is a feminine planet, but Libra is the more masculine side of Venus, stereotypically. But because the sun falls in Libra, they're not. The sun's not happy with Libra at all. But the moon is actually okay with Libra. The thing with the moon is that the moon isn't that happy with Libra either because there's no direct like weakening or strengthening of the moon within the Libra sign. It's quite a neutral placement technically, but the moon is a water planet which doesn't really work with an air element sign, and also the moon is traditionally the ruler of Cancer. So they're coordinating water and Libra's coordinating air. So they kind of are on a square. So the moon still doesn't really get on very well with Libra. But a Libra moon is going to be the same sort of character traits, but it's going to be felt on a deeper, more internal level. It's going to be expressed more privately. It's going to be less obvious on the surface to other people because the moon is the unconscious, the subconscious. It's the deeper core of our personality, but we don't show it very often, not on the outside, unless we're really close to someone. So the Libra energy is going to be like the Sun Libra is going to be a lot more flirty, a lot more sort of aesthetic on the outside. They're going to be showing these traits. The Libra moon is going to be a lot more like how you feel on the inside. You really have this need for harmony, balance, peace, not causing discord or arguments. But this is going to be expressed as an internal need that you're going to feel instinctively. And then your accent will be based on trying to keep the peace at all costs. But you're not going to be showing people it on the outside necessarily, especially if your sun sign is not Libra, um, because the moon is very private. Mercury then. So Mercury in Libra. Now it can be said that Mercury is happy in all air signs because they're fast thinkers, which Mercury is the planet of cognition and thinking, and obviously language and expressing of language. So in that sense, Mercury is okay in Libra. It's a neutral placement, so it's neither good nor bad really. Mercury in Libra, you might just have a very tactful sort of manner of speech or expression of words. You're going to be pretty diplomatic. You're going to choose your words quite carefully. They're going to be quite measured, not slow as much as the Taurus Mercury is. You're going to be quicker with thinking. You're going to be quicker with saying words and coming up with like responses to what people are saying to you, but they're still going to be measured and like thought out really well in the sense that they're going to be fair, and you are going to avoid at all costs, or at least you're going to try to avoid at all costs, being in any way offensive to other people with your language. You're going to be very you're going to be very like you're going to have a lot of you're going to have a big filter Like, you're not one of those people who have no filter between your mind and your heart and your mouth. You are going to be the opposite of that. You're going to think very carefully and be very tactful with your language. Opposite, as I say again, to Aries, whereas Mercury and Aries are going to be very impulsive with speech, a bit aggressive with speech. You're going to push your speech out, not going to think before you say something about the consequences of what you might be saying. Because Libra's opposite, they're going to be the opposite. They're going to be like, I shouldn't say this because this is going to cause offense. And especially because Libra doesn't like arguing, they're going to hold back a lot of their thoughts, I think, sometimes because they don't want to cause an argument. They're going to think very carefully, are they going to take this the right way before I say it? If not, or if they have any doubt about what way someone's going to take it, they're not going to express it because they don't want to make anyone feel uncomfortable or cause any arguments or discord to occur or take place. So Venus, now obviously Venus rules Taurus and Libra, so this is a dignified placement. So Venus, sorry, Venus is very happy in Libra because it's dignified, similar to Taurus. So, well, the same as Taurus. So yeah, Venus in Libra is an awesome placement. And obviously, all the Venus ruled signs and Pisces, because they exalt Venus, in other words, strengthen it. Venus is about physical beauty, it's about harmony, balance. You like a really nice, personable sort of personality. You're going to be very sociable. So to have Taurus, Libra, or Pisces in Venus is going to be an awesome placement. So as I say, obviously this video is just Libra. So Venus in Libra, you're going to be very pretty. Your physical appearance is probably going to be very above average. You're going to be very eye-catching. You're going to have a very symmetrical sort of appearance. You're going to look very attractive to a lot of people. People will be drawn to you, but not in an intense way like Aries and Scorpio. It's going to be more in a very harmonious way. Like you have this sort of natural beauty on the inside and it's expressed on the outside with your physical appearance. And it's going to be discreet, but it's going to be a noticeable beauty, which will make people be interested in you. It's very harmonious. So Venus and Libra is a very, very nice placement. Now Mars and Libra. Now this is a bit tricky because, as I said, Mars is weakened, detrimented in the signs that Venus rules, which is Taurus and Libra. So Libra, I wouldn't say Mars and Libra is as bad as Mars and Taurus, but you're still going to be, and I think that's mainly because Mars does work better with air element than it does with earth element, because Mars is a fire planet technically, because it's the ruler of Aries, although it also does rule Scorpio too. But Mars typically is a fire planet, archetypically in terms of its energy expression, because it's about drive, energy, motivation. So to have it in Libra, I mean, Libra's an air sign, so air and fire do get on quite well. They're pretty compatible. It's going to make Mars blow even stronger, it's fire. But the problem with that is that it's in Libra instead of, like, if it was the air signs of Gemini or Aquarius, that would be no problem at all. But because it's Libra, which is opposite to Aries, that's where the problems come in because it does weaken the planet of Mars in general. So, although it's probably a little bit better than having Mars and Taurus because the elements are more compatible, it's still not a very good placement because it's still a direct weakening of Mars. So, to have your personal Mars in your birth chart in Libra, it's not the best situation. I mean, Libra can be quite a low energy sign, similar to Taurus. Again, I wouldn't say they're as lethargic as Taurus as a sign. They're a little bit more energetic and proactive. The thing about Libra, I think it manifests mostly as indecisiveness, actually. Libra, because they see both sides of a situation, both sides of the coin, in literally everything in their life, they can be very, very indecisive. They can be struck with indecision all the time. And I feel like Gemini also does this too. I think a certain level of indecision is just from being an air sign in the first place. But Libra, especially, I think it's most pronounced in them out of all the other air signs, I think, is this indecision is so like pronounced. They are very, very indecisive. Because in everything in life they see both sides of the argument, they see both sides of the coin, so they can be indecisive even on personal matters for that reason. I think that's a way where their weakens Mars kind of would manifest. Mars and Libra, you might be tired quite often. You might not have that much energy or motivation. I know when Mars is in Libra in astrology, it makes me feel a bit lethargic because my Mars in my personal chart is actually Aries. So to have Mars and Libra in astrology for a certain like time period is going to be working opposite to my personal Mars. So that does make me feel quite lethargic, It's not the most lazy sign, but I would say it is a bit low in that sense. Okay, so Libra rising then. So Libra rising, that's actually a very, very common placement for your rising sign to be at, I think. So Libra rising, you're going to have all your external appearance. Now, your rising sign is your external appearance. It's kind of the mask you wear, the sort of filter over your eyes that you express the world with. It's a very shallow personality. It's not who you are in your core by any means, but it is what people will pick up on when they first meet you for the first time and don't know you very well, because this is the personality you're throwing out to the outside world at first. It's like the first filter to your personality that you show people is the rising. It's also the ruler of your first house as well. So rising Libra, you're going to look very physically attractive. You're going to look very beautiful. You're going to attract people through this subtle sort of beauty and charm. Um, Libra rising especially. I actually remember when I did the Taurus video, I actually forgot to talk about Taurus rising, but Libra and Taurus rising, basically, you're both going to have this physical appearance being very highly attractive, higher than the average. You're going to have some star quality. It won't be like Leo rising because that's the sun, where the sun is all charisma, charismatic. It's going to draw people in very strongly, very magnetically. If you have a Taurus or a Libra rising, you're ruled by Venus, so it's not going to be as much of a dynamic pull, sort of assertive that it would if your rising was Leo and it was the sun. It's more just this subtle feminine sort of charm. Even if you're a man, you're just going to look like quite naturally beautiful, even if you're not really paying much attention to your appearance, which Libra always does. But even if you weren't, you would still look natural. You would still look quite attractive naturally. And this goes also for Taurus Venus as well, Taurus rising, sorry, as well as the Libra rising. Libra rising versus Taurus rising. Taurus rising, you're going to look a bit more broad shouldered. You're probably going to have this muscular sort of appearance. You're probably going to, you're going to look quite like a bull. Some Taurus rising people will literally get a nose piercing in their nose and they will literally look like a bull. But you're going to have this attractive, sort of elegant appearance. It's going to be natural. You wouldn't have to force it. It would just be there naturally. Libra rising, you're going to be a bit fairer. Your shoulders won't be as broad. You're going to look sort of quite. If you're a man with Libra rising, you're going to look naturally attractive. You're going to look good in pretty much any situation. You're going to be very chilled out as a person. People will get an instant vibe of calmness from you, an instant vibe of serenity from you. This is the same with the Taurus rising. Uh, and you're going to look pretty masculine, but in a very harmonious way. If you're a woman with Libra rising, you're going to look incredibly feminine. You're going to look naturally elegant and beautiful without even trying. You're going to look very natural. You're going to have this very calm, sort of relaxed, serene sort of aura about you. Like people are going to feel comfortable speaking to you. You're going to chill them out. That's what's going to happen in that sense. But overall, yeah, Libra, the whole ethos of their sign, it's a very kind-hearted sign. They're kind of the sign of the zodiac which stops all the arguments. They're sort of the very peaceful sign. Libra, because they are signaled by the scales, an inanimate object, they can be a little bit, as I say, indecisive. Mars is weak, so they're a bit passive. They're not very energetic or assertive, but they give what we need in the zodiac. They give this serenity, opposite to Aries, which gives this push to start the whole cycle going and give us exactly what we need to have the motivation, energy, the stamina, the argumentative courage, that type of spirit. Libra obviously is the opposite to that. So Libra is the one who will calm us down. They'll be like, chill, we've had 6 signs. Now we're on sign 7. This is Libra. Don't worry so much about your ego. Don't have this much fighting spirit. Be a bit more passive. Provide more for the other person in a relationship, even if it's not romantically. They're more sort of, you should give now. You've done a lot of going for yourself with the first 6 signs, especially Aries and Leo. So now we're at Libra. Start to focus outward more. Don't focus so much on yourself and what you want. Focus more on what other people want. Of course, stand up for your own interests and your own personal boundaries, but focus more on what other people want too. That's sort of this Libra sort of ethos. And we can learn from them to be a lot more peaceful, a lot more fair-minded. They're very diplomatic. They don't lose their emotional equilibrium. They're very calm. They're not overly emotional because they are an air sign, but they are the most emotional out of the 3 air signs. But they're not overly emotional. They're very rational, very calm. and that's what we can learn from them. But I'm sorry this video was really long. I had a lot to explain because I was also kind of touching on the polarity with Aries and their opposition. But as I say, I will do a video with each sign opposition to the other sign and what the core sort of theme of that opposition is in a future series of videos. But yeah, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this and got some sense out of it. I'll see you next time.